Hello, precious gem. Do you even know you're a precious gem? Do you see how amazing, how valuable, how shiny, how sparkly you are? Or are you convinced that because of the shit that surrounds you, you are shit? I want that to really sink in for a minute. I want you to take it and not just brush it off, but I want you to hear something. You are a precious gem. You're so valuable, so precious, so wonderful, and so worth it. And I know you don't even see it anymore. My name is Steve Kidd, and I'm so glad to be here with you today to share with you that you are a precious gem. I've been so blessed traveling internationally, singing and preaching. As a third generation minister, I've done a lot of the things that I've done as much outside of the church as is inside. That was interesting to say. I was the lead singer in a Christian rock band. I've written about 20 books now, all of which are bestsellers. I've worked with literally thousands of people to write, publish, and market their books to bestsellers. And we've tracked it, and there are millions of people whose lives have been changed because each one of them stepped forward and shared their message with the world. And what I know is in my own life and in the lives of the people that I've worked with, both in ministry as well as in doing their books and in business and in all the things I've done, all of us tend to buy into a message that is so much less than what we are. I was talking with my brother the other day, and he was talking about, because he spent a lot of his years working on farms, and he was talking about the concept of a manure pit. And he worked on one of the places he worked was a dairy farm, and if a manure pit gets plugged up, you've got to unplug it. You can't just be like, well, that's manure. I'm not jumping down in there. It's just going to have to overflow. You have to get in the manure and fix it sometimes. Sometimes that's the only solution. And it got me thinking, a lot of times we're so deep in the shit, things that others have put on us, stuff that we've settled for. And I'm talking about powerfully, amazingly wonderful people who have done incredible things and who could come on a Facebook Live, on a YouTube, stand on the grandest of stages, and they could say definitively all of the things they've done. And yet, their definition of themselves is this shit that they're swimming in. Not because for a moment they jumped in the manure pit to fix something. Not because to help somebody transform their life, they were willing to jump back into the swamp they had trudged through and be a trail guide through the grossest, most nasty of swamps. I'm not talking about those kind of times. I'm talking about the less than that we settle for because of what our vision sees of ourselves. When in fact, we are the most precious, the most truly wonderfully precious of all gems in all of creation. At the moment of your birth, all of eternity stopped for just that second to praise God and to exclaim beyond all the wonder of your coming into existence. And the angels in heaven sit hushed, waiting, because they know what you can be. But instead of living in that space, we've defined ourselves by the box that we've put ourselves in and by the shit that's been thrown on ourselves, and worse, that we put on ourselves. And we've bought that definition for us because our environment, our boxes, our surroundings, they look like shit. And so if we're buried in shit, well, then that must mean we're shit, right? And we never take the time to even find a way to get out. And so we begin to define ourselves that way. It reminds me of a story that my friend Ernie Villanueva used to always tell. He said there was a man who went to visit a farmer, and he saw out on the yard where all the chickens were pecking at the dirt. He saw amongst them the most beautiful, glorious of eagles. And the visitor was shocked. He was like, "Oh my gosh, is that an eagle?" And the guy said, "Yeah, sort of. But he thinks he's a chicken." And the guy was like, "Oh my gosh, doesn't that eagle know he's an eagle?" And the farmer said, "No, that eagle thinks he's a chicken. Watch." And he took some chicken feed out and he threw it on the ground in front of the chickens. And sure enough, right along with the chickens, the beautiful eagle was pecking at the chicken feed on the ground. He went over, he picked up one of the chickens and tossed it in the air. And like chickens do, if you've ever seen them, it flapped its wings, but it really didn't do any good. And the chicken fell to the ground. And so then he picked up the eagle and he tossed it up in the air. And the eagle did the same worthless flapping. And he too fell to the ground. Because the eagle had become convinced that he was a chicken. He had forgotten the smell of the air when he was soaring thousands of feet above the ground. He had lost the taste for fresh kill, diving down and grabbing the salmon or the other creature off the ground or out of the river and eating. The eagle thought he was a chicken. And just like that, we've been swimming in the manure pit for so long that we've stopped seeing ourselves as the solution that jumped into the manure pit to fix the problem. And we're just more of the manure. And we settle. Sometimes we settle to the ground, but for most of us, we're not floating on the top. We're nowhere near the bottom. Many of you, your 80% that you're giving right now is better than everybody else you know's 150%. You can do on autopilot things that most everyone you've ever known or ever met could even imagine doing. When I talk about living exceedingly abundantly above, it doesn't really spark or challenge you anymore because you see how good your less than is doing and you're comfortable. I've been there. I know what it's like. We talked the other day about abundance and about the fact that it's not about the zeros in our bank account or how healthy we are or how mentally stable we are. And yet, when we have the big dollars in our bank account, that's when we, for a moment, feel accomplished. That's when we see ourselves as a little bit more. But then, like money does, it spends and it's gone and the bank account is lower again. And for each person, it doesn't matter what level they're at. Whatever that number gets down to that begins to trigger them, we reach that level. It doesn't matter whether that level is $1 million in your bank account or it's $1 in your bank account. I've even met a few people that it's, a couple $100 negative in their bank account before they really start getting freaked out. Doesn't matter what that level is. That's what we then begin to look at. And because life has its ebbs and flows, and because money that comes in to bless us also goes back out, because you're a big giver, you tend to have the money flow through you as opposed to staying stuck in the middle, just sitting in your bank account. And so rather than seeing how much is coming in and how much you've been blessed to provide back out into the world, all you see is that number in the bank account or that number on the scale when you step on the scale, or how you feel today as you're going through something difficult. And we begin to see our 100% as the 70 or 80%, the good enough that's so much better than so many other people. And we begin to define ourselves as the manure pit we're living in. It doesn't matter, although a lot of us have had people who have called us and told us we aren't worth shit. That doesn't matter nearly as much as how much we've accepted it. And so we do these amazingly incredible, wonderful things in the world. And you know who doesn't celebrate us? Us. And not even because we're aware of the fact that we're only living at the 70 or 80%, but because we bought so much into the message of the shit that we are that we don't know anymore that we're a precious gem. There's an old song. I sang it back actually in the group that I toured with in my senior year of high school. And it's about the violin. And the auctioneer brings up the old, battered, and yucky violin. And he says, it's not much, but, it's what we've got left, so I guess we'll sell it too. Who will give me $1? Oh, look, there's $2. Will anybody go to $3 for this worthless violin? But then the violin master comes. He tunes it up. He puts on new strings. He has a well-rosined bow. And he takes and he plays it. And now the people see. The old violin, maybe it's battered and scarred, but it's a Stradivarius. It's worth so much more than any of them could have even ever imagined. And now the values are thousands and tens of thousands of dollars on that same violin that the auctioneer couldn't even get $3 for. And we do that with our own lives. because the bright, beautiful, elegant, shiny, precious gem that you are sees itself as shit, because that's what it's surrounded by. And the master needs to come into your life, clean you, well, first, pull you out of the shit, clean you off, brush and polish you, and make you see just how elegantly beautiful you are. And then display you someplace where the sunlight glimmers off of the radiant beauty that is you, and put you on display for the whole world. That's what's for you. That's what the world is waiting for, is for you to take that incredibly terrifying step to be able to be cleaned off and put on display as the precious gem that you are. Today is your day to clean off the shit and shine. Things will happen tomorrow. Things have happened in the past. There may be even times today when you stub your toe and things go wrong and you feel bad. But in the midst of all of that, I'm here today to encourage you to shine, to shimmer beautifully and elegantly as the radiant, beautiful, amazing, precious gem that you are. And to be the first one on behalf of the whole of the universe, I applaud you for taking that terrifying step and going through the process that the cleaning will be, so that you can shine brightly. The gem that makes diamonds blush at how beautiful you are, that causes stars to not feel worthy to twinkle because of you, because you are a precious gem. And I thank you for taking it up right now and learning, growing, and just simply shining into the world. Thank you for that. Until we're together again, I hope you're happy, safe, warm, and loved, and that you know that you are a precious gem and you shine brightly.